Okay, hi everybody. This is Minus from Pantheon Plus. Today we are going to be talking about the Cleric class, and everything we're going to be talking about is really just from reading through class abilities, going through what we know in the past as a cleric through different MMOs we may have played, and also anything we might have seen in streams, and honestly just shooting the shit about clerics. Above me in our stream, you'll see Hayah. He's also a part of Pantheon Plus. And you won't see him, but you'll hear Shall, also a part of Pantheon Plus. Us three are three of the five of our team right now. And hopefully we'll get some more people who want to stream and join in some of these chats. So you guys will see on the side here, I actually just went like that, but it's on the other side, the cleric page there. Again, welcome Hayah, welcome Shao.
All right.
Okay, so tonight we are talking Cleric. Overall, I think we'd all say that Cleric is a class that's in a lot of different MMOs. There's been a lot of different renditions of it. I think the one that I'm most familiar with is EverQuest's Cleric, and I think you'd probably say the same.
Oh, yes.
I never played a Cleric. I always wanted to make a Cleric, and I always needed a Cleric in EverQuest. And before we even started recording, we were kind of talking a little bit about how I think for me anyway, every single cleric I ever saw was a dwarf, which is kind of funny that they have that up as the picture here. You said that you played a halfling though, right?
I did.
So, and Shao has actually just started playing EverQuest, which is hilarious to say. We didn't make him do it. I think we kind of guilted him into doing it.
I'm glad I did. It was a lot funner. Better than EverQuest 2.
That's been the constant theme. I think it's because the steamrolling that you do in EQ2, and then we're in the trial den of EQ1 and getting our faces wrecked.
Wiped 4 times to a boss.
EverQuest. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the video because one of the problems we'll always have here is we'll talk forever without achieving anything, and I think you guys will find that to be the case quite a bit. So we're looking at the page here. We're looking at Cleric at the top of the page. So let's start with available races. It looks like you're going to be able to be Dark Mirror, Dwarf, and Human. Anybody have any surprises by that or anything they think should have been?
No, they all kind of make sense. Water classes or races in video games are usually synonymous with healing.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, the Dark Mirror is it's a strange hybrid. If you're an EverQuest fan, it's kind of a Dark Elf meets underwater creature.
It's like Dark Elf meets Naga almost from WoW.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good reference. Dwarf, like I said, every cleric I've ever seen is a dwarf, and until somebody. Oh, and by the way I say dwarf, that's gonna get some pickup probably.
DORF. Dwarf.
It's a dwarf. And then humans in this game can be everything, so no shock there. You mentioned you played a halfling cleric in EverQuest. I could see them doing that. I'm kind of surprised you don't have like one of the evil races. I don't want to call them evil. Pantheon's a little different. It's not the perceived horde versus alliance type of thing. But I'm kind of surprised that. I mean, I guess it makes sense that an ogre can't because they're just brutal warriors. Same with the Scar. I don't know. It's just weird to me that I guess Dark Mirror's evil, right? We're kind of assuming that.
I don't know.
All right, so going down here, so obviously a cleric is going to be a healer, support, utility class. The combat resources are mana, celestial power, and celestial bond. So it looks like you'll be building a little bit of a resource while you're playing. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm not crazy about it, having to manage something other than mana. It depends how it's implemented, I guess.
Yeah, and I hate relating this to WoW because I think it's gonna be such a different experience that anything I say, it reminds me of when Holy Paladin had holy power, and I wasn't a fan of that. So it'll be interesting to see if there's certain abilities that will use that holy power and how it plays off to gaining it. So it'll be pretty interesting.
Is it the Celestial Bond?
What was that, Chow?
Celestial Bond, is that the resource you're talking about?
Yeah, Celestial Power / Celestial Bond. Yep. So it looks like Celestial Power is a percentage of your effective healing, as it says over there, and they perform on themselves and allies. So I guess that's kind of cool. In WoW, that extra holy power was gained from abilities that generated a set amount, so you had to go out of your way to try to gain those points, whereas this is just going to come more naturally. So that actually makes me feel a little bit better about it. And then if you see the bottom line in the top section there, says when a cleric has accumulated enough celestial power, you get a bond, and when the bond is active, the power cost of your abilities is reduced. So it's interesting. You're have two different things working with the mechanic, where you want to build it up to a certain point to get strength and then maybe dump it. So almost like a burn phase for a healer, which could be kind of cool. Remember, everything we're saying is a lot of speculation. None of us are in pre-alpha. When we get into pre-alpha, we won't even be able to say a lot of stuff anyway, so it's kind of fun doing these videos and just BSing around on it.
It seems like a cool thing, and I hope you have enough control over how quickly you can gain it so that you can actually get to that Celestial Bond phase more or less on command. Like, not instantly, but like if you extra ads come in, oh shit, I gotta start doing stuff, and then we'll blow the wad, as they say.
Yeah, or set it up so that you can hit a certain phase of a boss or a fight or an area. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Scrolling down the window a little bit here, looking at available armor, healer class that can use all armor, including plate mail, which is pretty cool. Pretty standard. Any cleric I know is pretty much a paladin.
With less combat prowess.
Yeah, exactly. And then looking at the available weapons, one-handed blunt, two-handed blunt, which is kind of interesting. Two-handed, I guess, when I think two-handed blunt, I think of like a stave, but staves are actually different in this game than a two-handed blunt. It's like a staff. So two-handed blunt's probably like a warhammer type of thing, or a big old club.
It would do more damage than a one-hander, so when you hit something, you're going to get more healing to yourself with two-hander, right?
Yeah, and that's because, so those of you that don't know, me and Hayah are not as prepped as Shao here. He has like notes, and so he's talking to an ability where you gain. Yeah, so cheater. No, I'm kidding. Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, what he's talking about is, and we'll get to it down here, but it looks like attacking with a cleric will do some benefits to the healing, which is pretty cool. Celestial Tomb or Shield appear to be your offhands, so if you're using a one-handed weapon, it looks like you'll be able to use an offhand. It'd be interesting to see how effective the shield is, if it's just a stat stick or it actually helps you. I would imagine, knowing EverQuest, it'll probably help you.
Yeah, clerics could use bash and use it for interrupting spells. It'd be cute.
Okay, so lots of armor choices, some decent weapon choices, a couple different resources to manage. Let's jump into the abilities. I'll read through some of them. Just chime in, guys, honestly. First one here is Favor of the Order, so passive. And this is exactly what Shao was just talking about. Your successful melee attacks heal you for X% of the damage they deal. So, Hayah, you would know because you've been playing EverQuest a lot more. When you're casting, you're not auto-attacking, correct? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but...
Yeah, you don't. You stop the auto-attack timer when you're casting, and then it picks right back up as soon as the cast goes up.
So downtime, then, is really what that's
It's kind of just like weaving. So you could, like, get close to your mobs, start meleeing it, and then as heals are needed, you switch target, cast your heal, swap. Clerics can actually, or could actually, do a bunch of damage in EQ when I play.
Clerics had smite back then, right?
Yeah, but they had this spells line that you could summon, and they had really good attack ratio, really good attack ratios.
Shao, anything on that? I mean, you kind of brought that up already.
Yeah.
Cool. So the
I'm
next
still
one.
looking at celestial tomes.
Nice. So, Conviction, next ability here. Passive ability, while you maintain a celestial bond, your heals cannot be interrupted, and you'll be able to heal while stunned.
That's
So,
badass.
yeah, that's really cool. So that, it's funny because, again, we're not sitting here trying to draw out all these notes for these videos. A lot of what we do is going to be natural. We want gamers that of any skill set to be able to enjoy our videos or be able to contribute, and hopefully we'll get some more people to jump into these videos down the line. But yeah, so we're sitting here talking about how to use it, and the second ability here is like, hey, this is going to change it a bit. So pretty cool. So, I mean, at this point, while stunned is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen an ability for a healer that let them heal while stunned.
Oh, stun has always been rule of law. Like, you're interrupted. Like,
Yeah, in the world of Stuncraft.
So really cool. So that gives you a couple different uses for Celestial Bond, whether you just need to dump a bunch of mana or there's a phase coming up. I mean, that's crazy. Imagine like an AoE stun braid boss or a dungeon boss, and it's coming and you have that ready and it doesn't even matter. Or imagine what the developers can do with that boss to make it where like there's going to be some stuff happening while you're stunned. Usually when you're stunned in a WoW fight, it's, as long as you're topped off, you're fine. But they can go pretty crazy with that.
spawn ads and then stun the raid. There you go.
That's pretty cool. So Celestial Focus is the next ability. Now you'll see some of these abilities say Epic Skill. I'm imagining that there's certain skills you're probably going to have to train. There's certain skills you're probably going to have to find. And there's certain skills you're probably going to have to earn. So this epic skill here, when you meditate, you will generate celestial power in addition to mana. So so far we've read 2 abilities, and that celestial power seems to effectively change the generation of it, effectively what you're going to use it for. So it looks like it's going to be very versatile. So right away, my concerns about being a holy paladin with holy power are kind of erased.
Yeah, it looks like a completely different iteration.
That's really cool. Resurrect, not a lot to talk about there. Bring a fallen ally back to life, restoring a portion of their lost experience. Also, very important reason to have a cleric around. If you die, you are going to have a death penalty. It will be experience based. They have said they're going to be testing a few different things. Anything from losing experience, having an experience debt that you have to overcome before you can start gaining again, or still they're toying around that maybe you will de-level. I know a lot of people hate de-leveling, so it'll be interesting. I think the debt mechanic personally to me is pretty interesting, but man, if you got a bunch of debt, so only usable out of combat.
There are battle reses in this, though. I've heard them talk about that on stream.
They have a battle res too. It looks like plea of the devote. It in combat is 80% health mana, and it prevents experience loss and doesn't cause res sickness.
Nice.
Okay, so that's
a huge timer, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, no, actually that's pretty important because if you look, that's right next to Resurrect, Plea of the Devout. That's actually pretty interesting because did you notice that Resurrect causes resurrect sickness?
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know. It's the people who jump into this game that are sick of WoW and don't know what they're getting into. It's going to be pretty interesting to see if they can adapt or if they're just going to complain. All right, I'm just going to stick to going down the left side and then I'll shoot back up. Yeah, it's probably easier. So the next one here, Celestial Aegis. Aegis. That's the Aegis is mine. What was that, boss? Skovald. You manifest the Celestial Aegis for a limited duration. You can place this massive shield of light in the environment or even carry it for short distances. While it lasts, it is an immovable object that no enemy will be able to pass through.
So wait, it's a physical object you put down that shields you from things?
Yeah, imagine the first thing that came to my head. I know what you're probably thinking already is your monk ability. What was that called?
Oh, Ring of Peace.
Yeah, it's like a ring of peace that you pick up and put down somewhere in a sense.
But you can pick it up and move it. That's gonna be neat.
Or you can pick it up and move with it.
Yeah.
Like, so I imagine when you pick it up, it's still active, so people could huddle around the cleric. Shao, in any of the streams on clerics, did you ever see that be used at all?
I did see the when they mind control an undead.
Okay.
And puts a dot on him and makes him attack another undead.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
So really cool. That Celestial Aegis is pretty awesome. A lot of uses. I mean, it's hard not to think of what we've already played. We may see completely new experiences and new boss fights because obviously it's going to play to the mechanics of the game. Ethereal Armor. You manifest Celestial Armor around an ally. This gift increases their armor class and can cause physical attacks against them to become glancing hits, dramatically reducing the incoming damage. That looks like a huge tank buff.
Yeah. It looks a lot like the AC buffs of old EverQuest Cleric, except for there's like that added level of, making the glancing hits happen. I really like that.
It's like putting a dodge into it. Well, no, because glancing hits are still going to deal damage to you, but not much, right?
Yeah. Like, it depends how they scale it too. Like if 100 damage turns into 20, that's great. Still taking some, but
that's pretty cool. Edict of Stillness. You pacify your enemy's will for a short time, making them unresponsive to activity happening around them unless directly engaged. So, did clerics have a mez in EQ?
It's not a mez. It's called a pacify, or a lull even. And it just means, so like, let's say you're approaching a room with 2 guards posted at the door. You cast that on one, and then you pull the other, and the one you casted this on won't come with him.
Okay, so it's not more of a mid. It's a pulling technique.
Yeah.
Huh. So Shao, like when we went in an EverQuest and you just ran in the room and pulled everything the other night, we could have just cast that. I'm just kidding. That's interesting. Okay, that's cool. I think I remember quite a few classes having stuff like that.
Yeah, Druids had one that was outdoor only. Bards have it later on. All kinds of stuff.
Very cool. Next one here is called Light of Muric. By the way, I may not pronounce a lot of things right, and I'll just say that that's a forever statement. You whisper across the pages of your tomb, willing the light of Muric to shine forth. This ability turns your tomb into a moderate light source. If used while you have a celestial bond, this ability turns your tomb into a supernatural light source, granting visibility in atmospheres of supernatural darkness. So you have to have a tomb.
You have to have a tomb, and you got to have a bond to use it. All right?
Yeah, good call. So that's like an out of combat reason to have. Wow, it's gonna be interesting managing that. That's pretty cool though. And if anyone hasn't watched the Alex Central stream, he played a cleric. And the cool part of the video, towards the end, they go into a dungeon and they actually fight a boss. And as they're walking through, you can just tell how dark it is. You really don't have that in WoW. I don't remember that since EQ actually being a human and not being able to see anything. So that's pretty cool. Just a nice utility thing. I'm going to scroll and we'll continue down that row. Until, well, that's it. So Rebuke. You release a torrent of celestial power on your enemy, inflicting divine damage. This ability will cause divine damage over time against undead. Undeath. I don't know if that's a typo. So that kind of starts. That's the first ability where it actually lists on there that it does more damage against undead, and I love it. I've always felt that the holy classes should deal damage to undead that way. And I can't remember what game I played. If you guys remember the game or you played a game like this, let me know. But there was a game I played where you actually could heal the enemy and hurt them. And I thought that was so cool. And I can't remember for the life of me what that game was. But I was a healer, and you could literally cast a heal on an undead, and it would literally hurt them. And then if you cast like a unholy spell on them, it would heal them. Again, I can't.
Diablo 1 had that?
What's that?
I think Diablo 1 had that.
Maybe, but I don't know if Diablo 1 had a healer.
No, but like it had Holy Light or some equivalent spell, and
Yeah.
it would heal yourself for players and damage undead. I think so.
Yeah.
memory's fuzzy.
But I really like the fact that they're defining the class as being holy, so you have that advantage against
Yeah, I guess
undead. And WoW had that for some time. In ICC, playing as a prot pally was absolutely incredible with the amount of extra damage and effects you could do to undead. And I think that even as much as the last expansion, your a couple abilities would stun undead, or 2-second something to undead or fear undead or something like that. So they had a little bit, but this game already feels like it's going a little bit extra with that. So I'm gonna go back to the top of that row.
I really like how they added like more depth to a lot of simplistic otherwise abilities.
Yeah, because
So like here's an armor class buff, but sometimes it'll make them glancing blow you. That's
it helps make it unique.
Yeah.
Because someone else may also give you an armor buff, but what's going to
then you
come
can
with
say,
it?
No, I want the cleric armor buff instead of the other guys.
Yeah, or maybe one tank you give the cleric to, another one you give whatever to. It's pretty cool. Okay, so next one, white light, very top right. You overwhelm an undead enemy with brilliantly pure light, inflicting significant damage over time and imposing your righteous will, causing them to attack the nearest undead ally for a short time. So, Shao, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So it's very creative CC in that kind of a niche situation.
I mean, there's so many uses for that right away that come to mind. I mean, imagine you have a pack of 3. Could you pull with that ability and they just turn and start fighting it? Sort of like, yeah, right? So then instead of having to worry, maybe you can keep it controlled long enough to deal enough damage to it or maybe kill it. And now you got 2 to worry about. My guess is you probably can't keep it. This says for a short time, so it's not for long, but it could be a good mechanic to pull, get a little bit extra damage, but get yourself ready. That's pretty neat. Shao, you saw them use that in a video?
Yeah.
Do you remember how long that short time is? I mean, off the top of your head, was it pretty quick?
I want to say it was about 3 seconds, 3-4 seconds.
That's cool. It's also great for like, oh crap, right? So a couple mobs go crazy, healers getting attacked. Let's throw this on it. Okay, another passive ability here, Resilient Pages. While holding a Celestial Tomb, if your wisdom is higher than your enemies, which that is incredible, there is a chance your tomb will reduce X% of incoming damage from that. Wow. So that's the first ability. I know I've read through these, but I don't remember seeing it. That's the first ability in an MMO I've seen in forever that does a stat check against the enemy. That actually plays to your ability.
I feel like that Celestial Tome is a special armor slot.
Yeah, I don't, reading these abilities so far, I was like, hey, you could use a shield and you can be more tanky and take more damage. But so far, it doesn't look like there's a real good reason to do that yet, unless you just haven't gotten one. So that's really cool. So that makes me wonder if you're going to have a way to... Oh, it's passive.
Yeah.
Read the next ability. This is going to answer some questions.
Look at that. It's like it's planned. Tomb of the Initiate. You manifest the Celestial Tomb to carry. As you start your journey, you will only be able to wield the power of basic tombs provided to the initiates of the Cleric Order. As you grow in level, your ability to manifest and wield more powerful tombs will grow as well. That's cool. And it's going to be really cool if you have to quest, like, at all to get, like, a really good one. I hope they're not just trained. That's really cool class lore. And a free piece of equipment. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we were playing EverQuest the other night, you were summoning like food and stuff for the group, and then you
Bandages,
summoned
yeah.
weapons. Yeah, bandages. That's what it was. And then you summoned weapons and started giving to the pets. I completely forgot about the summon weapon thing.
And like as you get higher level there's different weapons that proc different spells, so you can get one that procs a stun or one that procs a dodge. Anyway, I hope there's a lot of that with the summoner class in this too.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And I mean, having an ability to summon a equipment slot is pretty cool.
Well, this kind of, like I said earlier, clerics and EverQuest could summon these holy hammers. It's kind of along the same vein. They were extremely powerful.
Yeah, so you wouldn't even worry about getting a weapon, right?
Well, you'd have like sit back and only do healing weapons. But if you were in a group that you could take some time to melee with, you'd definitely get one to like summon out the hammer and go smack some shit.
Awesome. The next spell we talked about already. It's your battle res.
Battle res.
Yeah. So usable in combat. Yeah, the interesting part will be what the cooldown is on that. You have another buff, Awaken Bravery. Dramatically increase the maximum health and armor class of an ally. So you get the HP buff with the armor class.
Cleric
Yep.
spell,
What is
yeah.
it? What do they mean when they say it increases the armor class? Like goes from light armor to medium armor?
No, it's just like you remember the armor stat in
Yeah.
EverQuest or in these games, it's called armor class.
Yeah, so like if your piece of armor has 10 armor, that's the same thing as saying 10 armor class. It's kind of funny though, because they did kind of get away from that word. Or wording. What were you saying, Hayah?
It's like saying health or hit points. It's the same.
Signet of Refreshing. Powerful signet that improves the accumulation of your group's unique combat resources for a short period of time. Okay.
That's cool. That's fucking cool.
So, that's a very support-like ability. I mean, I get that healers are considered a version of support, but when I think of support in the EverQuest realm, I felt like there was a class that was support. You weren't a healer, you were support. It's pretty cool because that's like sort of like the old mana battery of Shadow Priests back in the day, or enchanters and bards, which do all that stuff. Did Cleric ever have anything like that in EQ?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I mean, I didn't play it though.
Like this being on a longer cooldown and being like in every couple of minutes.
Almost like a divine hymn from WoW or
Maybe.
something like that.
Well, when you go to meditate, you can do the signet of refreshing, maybe. So what you're gaining mana and CP.
Or do you remember in Blade and Soul there was that ability the warlock had that made everyone go crazy? It was basically heroism.
No.
Shit.
I've tried to remove Blade and Soul from my memory.
Okay.
I love the game, but that's the first dangerous step into play to win. And I wanted to win. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then when it says unique combat resource,
So it'd be like the monk's chakra or I don't know what the other ones are.
so it
called.
won't be mana.
No, it's like for chamois, it's gonna be like the one that makes them cast faster. I'm guessing.
Or like the celestial that they get.
Yeah. It's like the tertiary stat.
Cool. Next one here, Edict of Peace. Word of Peace surrounds your ally, causing their activities generate less hate for the direction of the effect. Probably good for high DPS classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, healers. From what I've seen in videos of the wizard, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, the wizards look like cannons from what I've seen. Now, I don't want to get too off topic here and start talking wizard, but I'm sure we'll do this from time to time as we're learning more about the classes. But
High threat classes are like big damage.
yeah, and wizards have 3 types of casting. No surprise, arcane, frost, fire. And fire is just like, hey, I have mana. I don't want to have mana anymore. And it does just tons of damage. But I was seeing I think one of the first videos where the tanks had no idea how to tank, there was a wizard or somebody hitting it and just getting wrecked.
So the wizard was tanking. Yeah.
For a couple seconds. In this game, when you're not the one who should be tanking, you better not be tanking. Okay, the next one down. Here we go. Ready to butcher this?
You want me to say it?
Yeah, go for it.
Olume's Blessing?
That sounds good.
It looks right.
So it's just a Curge.
It works.
Curge. Curse. Purge.
Detox type spell?
Yeah, Curse is probably a debuff type. Revile Undeath. You smite an undead enemy with astonishing power, inflicting high damage and reducing their movement speed. So Undead Snare. Very cool. Okay, so I'm scrolling down. You can pretty much see all the rest of the abilities that are listed here. We'll start with so you have 2 melee abilities, which are essentially going to be 2 attacks that you can do when you're not healing, outside of your auto attack. And remember, there could be a lot more than what's listed on this page, so it's really our starting point. But the first one's Determined Strike. You strike an enemy with a sturdy blow, inflicting physical damage plus additional divine damage based on your wisdom. I like that. I don't want to say WoW didn't feel like int and all of that mattered, but it didn't feel like int and all of that mattered. Like you just got it until you like hit diminishing return, and you didn't really have any effect over getting it because it's just what was on the gear. I feel like this game's gonna be a little different with that.
I could see that being a thing. Like if you build for raw mana on gear, I don't know if that's a thing. I'm just compared to wisdom for these kinds of bonuses. That's like it could be the 2 paths you can take.
And the second ability here is Searing Cudgel. Powerful melee attack that deals greater damage the longer you charge the attack before releasing, which is brings up just an interesting thought process completely with what the combat's going to look like. I don't think I've seen any streams where I've seen anything about charging, so that's interesting. Undead targets will take additional divine damage based on your strength and wisdom. So,
and we keep going with that like class fantasy thing about beating down the undead. I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I'm hoping then the paladin also has some similar things.
Something to the same.
Okay, so bread and butter, we're getting into the healing now. Celestial Light heals your ally for a moderate amount if the ally's health is below 30%. This ability will manifest a Celestial Guard, increasing that ally's armor class by X% of your armor class for Y seconds. If Light Shroud is active on your target, Celestial Light will refresh its duration. So we haven't read all the abilities yet, and we may have to come back and talk about this, but is this the basic heal?
It could be. Moderate amount.
So it's interesting that the basic heal has functionality, sort of like we talked about with the buff up top. You're actually getting functionality out of, if you played WoW, out of Holy Light.
Okay, so I just read the Light Shroud, and it's very, very similar to how Mistweaver monks used to do their renewing mists and then the revivifies. It buffs each other kind of a thing.
Yep, so the next one down, shroud your ally in a restorative light, healing them over time for X duration. So a little bit of a hot with added benefit to your spells. That's pretty cool. So, wow, so you can, I wonder if you can multi-light shroud, because then you could sort of...
says one at a time.
Oh, yeah, there you go. See, that's why you're here.
It's effective, but it's super beneficial still.
It's your tank heal, right?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine many cases where that wouldn't be strictly applied to the tank. Shao, as a shaman, I mean, you typically were a shaman healer for most of the time I've known you. These healing abilities, I mean, how are they looking so far to you?
Looks fun. I want to play the damn game already.
Shao's like, let's stop talking about this and find a way to play. All right, so I'm going to run through these and we'll kind of talk about them all at once. I mean, slowly we talk about them individually, but I think knowing them all is going to be a bigger deal. So Purifying Bolt, Echoes, Purifying Bolt. You release a bolt of Purifying Light into an undead enemy, inflicting divine damage. This ability then jumps to heal your defensive target for the amount equal to the damage dealt. The healing effect will attempt to cure poisons and diseases on the ally. That's awesome.
Your tank by damaging the enemy.
It's a little Disc Priest.
A little on that, yep.
That's pretty cool. But also the automatic purge. It almost makes me, and again, I hate comparing to WoW, but it's what we played. I mean, what else am I going to do? It kind of reminds me of like Prayer of Mending, but it starts on hitting an enemy and then jumps to the defensive target. That's pretty cool. It's a nice little combo.
I'm wondering if it's going to be similar to how debuffs work in EverQuest, where every school or every flavor of debuff has a counter. So like this boss casts a poison spell and it adds 39 counters of, and then the cures in the game were based off of how many counters they could remove.
Yeah,
So
I do remember that.
Strong enough cure that cured 40 counters, it would get rid of that debuff. Or you could chain cast them, cast 2 or 3, and it would decumulate words.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Take stacks off.
So it's just against undead enemies. I'm guessing that other classes have other
It could be a
race attacks.
style of attack, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like to me, I mean, it looks like the Cleric is going to be in charge of curses, because that was the base ability it had, was to just remove a curse. And it looks like this is just an added little benefit. Reckon's Barrier. So clerics can evolve Reckon's Shield into Reckon's Barrier, which we're kind of doing it out of order here, but dramatically increasing the amount of damage reduction. In addition, critical hits against your target while Reckon's Barrier is active will heal the target for X% of the damage inflicted. That's interesting because you ask yourself, would you rather have a prevention so that the target doesn't die? They're going to have to be able to survive the hit to get the heal. But it's automatic too, so it's kind of nice. I'm going to jump over to Reckon's Shield real quick just because we just talked about that. So Reckon's Shield surrounds your target with a protective light, reducing all incoming damage by X for Y duration. So when I see X and Y, either that's going to be the spell leveling up, or that's going to be affected by your wisdom or stats, I'd imagine. So that's pretty cool. So it's basically a damage reduction spell that you can buff.
Kind of neat, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because this genre has been done so many times, and I'm sure someone will be like, well, in this Korean one called blah, 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 you can do that too. But in the modern MMO, at least the popular American MMOs, or even some of the Koreans that I've played, I don't think I've ever seen like, hey, put a spell on somebody and hey, we're going to cast this other spell to buff that up. It's not something I'm super familiar with, which is kind of cool.
I like it because it gives you a touch of control. So you know a high damage output phase for this boss is coming up. Get the Reckon's Shield on him and then wait to cast Barrier right before he goes into that nasty phase.
Yep. Vigilance. You mark a target. This is bottom left. You mark a target group member for X duration. While marked, Y% of damage taken by each member of your group will be converted into healing for the marked target. That's awesome.
Yeah. Ways to handle AoE damage.
I'm just sitting here kind of thinking about this. You know, the immediate thing a lot of people would probably say is that'll go on the tank and the tank will get extra healing. But what about putting it on the healer in like
Moments.
yeah, and it's a percent of the damage done to the marked target.
Target
Each
yourself
member of
with
your
it.
group. So you mark. Yeah. So I'm your healer. We get a bunch of ads. I throw this on myself and then start healing you guys, and you guys getting hurt heals me, so I don't have to worry about casting on myself.
Oh, but yeah, and then so the AoE that you're taking will heal. So actually, you probably would use it on tank more because it's percentage of the damage taken. So unless the AoE is just crazy, you could put it on anybody at that point. but it's the damage, the marked target's damage taken is what's spread out. So maybe it is more of a tank mechanic. That's pretty cool though. Top right, burst of life swiftly heals, so it's your fast heal, standard.
Yeah,
right?
you're mana inefficient. Just got to get this guy up.
Yeah, and in this game, mana inefficient. Gotta be careful with that.
I'm a wizard.
Are you going back to wizard? It's so funny because we have so long before this game comes out, and you guys remember me in Legion. I think I main. What was my main going to be for BFA? I changed like 6 times.
Everything.
Yeah, and we have a year and a half. But I mean, honestly, if Bard's out, I think you guys know me by this point. It doesn't even matter. If they're like, Bards are the worst class ever created, ever, I'm in.
They're like, yup, this is crap, but I love it.
Guys, carry me. I'll sing songs. Okay, so Arcing Luminous instantly restores a portion of your health, then jumps to 2 additional group members, healing X% more each jump. After the second group member is healed, you will be healed again for the same amount. The amount healed per jump will increase based on your wisdom. I don't know how many abilities I've ever seen that when it jumps, it does more. Typically, jumps do less.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it heals you, heals 2 people, heals you again.
It's like life insurance. If you know you're gonna pull threat with your heal egg,
And with no deductible.
so you cast this.
That's pretty cool. We already read Wreck and Shield. 2 more. Rethiels, Luminous Shield. A supernatural healing ability.
Wraithels? Yeah.
What was that? What'd you say?
Wraithels?
There you go. Luminous Shield. A supernatural healing ability that heals your ally for an amount equal to your max health.
So lay hands?
Was Lay of Hands based on your own health?
Yeah, but you gave them your health. It wasn't just a heal for your health.
Really? An EQ, Lay on Hands, gave them your health? I thought that... no, I'm thinking Arm Touch from Shadow.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they have it. You're not going to give... maybe you do give it to a Paladin. I don't know. Last one, Coalescence, matches your health with the health. So this is cool. I think me and Seth, who's not here, and maybe even me and you, Shall, talked about this quite a bit. It matches your health with the health of your defensive target by either bringing your defensive target's health up to your level or bringing your health up to the level of the defensive target. So what that allows you to do is buff your health pool or buff a Clothy's health pool would be my guess.
Or if you know that you're going to take a bunch of damage, you do that on the tanks so yours.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'd like to see durations on this, like whatever, but
Am I reading that wrong?
durations and CDs on these would be interesting to see.
Yeah, what were you saying, Shall?
Match your health with the health of your defensive target. What's a defensive target? Your enemy?
No, so it looks like, and I think I've seen this in the streams, but I didn't pay great attention to it. It looks like you'll have 2 targets, which is really cool. It's going to make healing a lot easier, especially since this game's not going to feature any add-ons. You'll be able to have an offensive target, so you can always have the boss targeted. And at the same time, you can always have a defensive target, which is a group member. So you can keep the tank targeted and have the boss targeted. And certain spells will go to defensive targets and certain spells will go to offensive targets. So it makes it a little bit easier to have a
EQ had
focus.
this, I believe.
EQ2 had it?
Yeah, because I could like dump dots into a boss and heal one of you guys while we were doing that, without target swapping.
Okay, cool.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It'd be interesting because I'm curious to see. I mean, is health going to? I mean, armor class is going to go up with heavier armor. Is health going to do the same? Like, is plate going to give you more health than cloth?
Depends, because stamina is still a thing, I would assume. Like you're gonna have strength, stam, agi, dex.
And I wonder if maybe as a caster you have to decide if you want stam or you want, mana or you want it's gonna be interesting.
Or when you need either one. You know?
I just don't get hit ever.
Don't die. That's how you win.
So that's kind of a look at the Cleric as a whole. Spent about 45 minutes on the dot there talking about what we're reading here. Just kind of quick takeaways. Shall, we'll start with you. I'll put you right on the spot because you've been a little quiet. What's your key takeaways from the Cleric? You spent a lot of time looking at it today. You've debated between being a wizard or being a healer. You're not really sure what healer you want to play just yet. But I know I think today you told me, hey, I read all about the Cleric. I watched videos. I want to be a Cleric. So I have a feeling that may happen a few more times as we do other classes. But, you know, what is it about the Cleric that you're liking so far and it's making you think about maining one?
The Celestial Tomb. Being able to light paths and whatnot.
Very cool. What do you think? You played at Cleric in EverQuest, Hayah, so you know, what are you seeing from this? And you know, you monk healed in EQ a lot. I think that's the only healer you played, right? Did you play Holy a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, but not in any kind of serious. I like it. It's got enough flavor and depth to be interesting rather than just being like the derpy big heal, like, you know, the de facto big healer guy. It's got a little bit more synergy with things and it's cool. It looks good.
Yeah, and looking across the classes, you know, and I brought up Holy. I played a ton of Holy. I played Holy Priest, Holy Paladin, Shaman, a little bit of Druid from WoW. It looks like to me when you look across the classes as a whole, your healers are Cleric, Druid, and Shaman, right? And that's it. And I'm sure Bard will have some sort of very low end support heal.
Yeah, like a regen song.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me because you don't have a ton of different healers. And if you were looking at them from the outside without looking into the spells, you would say the Cleric is probably your default regular healer. But reading through the abilities, it doesn't feel like this game's gonna have that.
Other stuff too.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like the generic MMO healer is gonna be in this game, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Very cool. All right. Any final things before we go ahead and end the video?
Nope, I got nothing.
Cool. So I'm excited for Cleric. Odds are in this game, at least at the beginning, I probably will not be playing a healer. I am pretty set on the support role. If Bard's not out, I'll probably be playing Enchanter. And there will probably be a time that I tank. You guys know me well enough that's something's going to happen and we're not going to have a tank. I'm going to level the tank. So that'll happen probably. But the Cleric does look like a really cool class. And from the little bit I know of Druid and Shaman, the tiny bit, I think Cleric would probably be my preferred healer if I did play a healer. I say that now, but we'll see. So it looks pretty cool. Not thrilled with the available races for it. It makes sense. I'm not complaining that it doesn't make sense. I just, you know, for me, race and how I look and all that is really, really important. I mean, human, that's your de facto. You can always go to, I guess. But so I'm not too sure on that. I'd like to see a little bit more abilities to be other things. But overall, the Cleric looks really good. I'm excited to see the charge mechanics. I'm excited to see how you can play off your own spells. Some of the group heal mechanics are really cool. They don't have because the one ability that you place down and all the damage heals everybody, that I wouldn't call that an AoE heal. That's a very situational heal. So they don't have a toolkit that seems to support AoE healing at all. Maybe like Splash or a 2-target type of heal. And I don't know that other healers are going to have an AoE healing component or not. So that's a pretty interesting thing to see as we go through these videos in the future. All right, guys. Hayah, thank you. Shall, thanks for jumping into this. We kind of threw you on the spot last minute. We'll get you on cam one of these days. Everybody, please, if you like what we're doing, give us some feedback. Follow us on Twitter at PantheonPlus. And definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to try to get as many likes out there as we can. And it's not so that we can just get likes. We want to hear from you guys. We have a year and a half to hype this game up. It's a long time. We want to know what you guys want to talk about. If you're someone who's done a lot of work for the game, or you run a site that's also doing the same type of stuff, we'd love to have you on some of these videos to talk, doing roundtable type stuff until we're able to eventually put some footage up. So please subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter. We will have a website launching. We're going to do that as soon. That's where the little trademark symbol will come up soon. We're not rushing it. In our last project, we rushed it. We started throwing it out there before it was done. And yeah, everybody was mad at me for doing that. So I'm trying to hold back now. Hayah's already yelled at me once. So we will not be putting that out there till it's done and ready to go. But again, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give us a like. If it's too long, let us know. If it's too short, let us know. And let us know what type of content you'd like to see us cover on here. Really appreciate it. Thanks again, guys. That's everything.
Bye, friends.
Bye.